Okay, so today we're going to talk about ghost stories. Now, I may do this periodically, or I may do this regularly. I don't know what I'm going to do, so just stay tuned. But nevertheless, I want to talk about ghost stories because it is actually something I am very, very interested in, and I would dare say passionate about if that is not creepy enough or won't put me on somebody's watch list. But nevertheless, ghost stories. So here's why I'm interested in ghost stories. Um, when I was younger, I had, and not even just younger, throughout my life, I've had a bunch of experiences with the paranormal. Some of the first ones being when I was a kid, and my aunt, she's on here. Hey, Aunt Dee Dee. She can attest that we were experiencing some weird things at one of her houses when we were kids. Actually, different houses she was at. But one of them, most notably, I remember there being a little like secret room that was almost like a like secret like slave passage thing in the back of the closet that was in my cousin's room. We were all around the same age, and somehow they got like a chair in there, and you look in there, you see the chair rocking by itself. Same house. We noted that there were bullet holes in the wall. We noted that at one point in time, my cousins had in the corner of the room, and I know in the 90s, you guys might, like 90s babies, you might resonate with this, but they used to put little nets in the corner of the rooms that would hold your teddy bears. Well, one night, that thing just like flipped out, and all the toys were spread out all over the room, all the stuffed animals. We also, and I forgot, one of my cousins had a Teletubby, and the Teletubby just started cursing out of nowhere. And we kind of got in trouble for that because my aunt thought, y'all in here making this thing cuss, and we're like, we don't. I mean, we cuss, but we're not making it cuss. We're not gonna do something to get us in trouble. So, yeah, we got in trouble for that. But that started to happen as well as last but not least, one of the scarier things that happened. And I'll never forget this. We were sitting there brushing our teeth. My auntie's a smoker, and we're brushing our teeth, and all of a sudden, this lighter that was sitting on the toilet lifted and moved to the fucking sink right before our eyes. And I think that was the first time, in life where I questioned my own, reality or my own rationality. This is before drinking or inhaling or anything else. And so I wasn't like there was nothing in my system for me to be hallucinating or. So, yeah, all of us saw it. It was scary. All of us that were alive at the time. I don't know. I think Mari might have been a baby. But yeah, so we experienced that. So that, in addition to other experiences, kind of sparked my interest into the paranormal. In fact, I wanted to be like a paranormal investigator as a kid. And I have a bunch of stories behind it. So with this little channel thing that I'm doing here, this content, shout out to my wife, Anti Angelique. She's inspiring me to do this because she's the bomb at it. So why not? Got all the equipment. She's showing me the way, so I'll go ahead and get into it. Just expect videos on whatever I want to make. And if you don't like it, you can go away. You can go yourself. But no, I'm going to make all kind of different videos. And so this first ghost story thing, I'm going to start off telling my story. You can expect me to tell other people's stories at some point in time. So if you want to join this, by all means, hit me up, send me a message, comment, tell me your ghost stories. Please tell me your ghost stories. I would be more than happy to share your story and provide commentary on it. Yeah, I'll be talking about all kind of stuff. I got books. We'll talk about books. Pretty much anything that strikes my interest, and hopefully I tend to attract some like-minded people, and the people who are not like-minded, can go to a like-minded content creator. Or you can argue with me in the comment section because I will fuck you up. But nevertheless, here's my ghost story. One of them. So do note, I'm not going to tell you the exact address, but what I will tell, because I don't want people going to these people's homes, this people's house, and I don't be liable for nothing. I don't want people trying to investigate or nothing. So, but what I will say is I used to live on a street named Wish Avenue. Some notable things about this house. Now they say lightning never strikes twice in the same place. Well, that is untrue because this house has been struck multiple times by lightning. I recall one time we were there, And I don't know if at that time it struck us or struck around us, but nevertheless, I remember everything just going totally white. And then all of a sudden we could see again. But it was like we were just in the living room, and all of a sudden everything goes white. You can't see nothing. Damn, I just died today. And all of a sudden the colors start to come back in. So I don't know what that was. My mother doesn't recall this. I recall this vividly. So I don't know. Maybe it was something spiritual or something deeper than lightning. Who knows? But I recall this happening. And I'll have to check on my dad and see if he recalls that. But nevertheless, struck by lightning multiple times before I knew what the mind's eye was. So the mind's eye is where, you know how you can visualize something that's not there? Say, somebody passes away, and then sometimes you can just like visualize that person in your mind, even though they're not there physically. Okay, that's the mind's eye, right? And it has a deeper spiritual meaning that I am not prepared to talk about. But nevertheless, before I knew what that was as a child, I used to look in the backyard and for some reason see a graveyard. Now, there wasn't a graveyard back there, but I would just look back there at nighttime, and there was a light on this like pole in the back, and I would just visualize a graveyard for no reason, right? Do note that grass never grew back there. Also, this was a new house on a new, this is a new development. So my parents built this house. So there wasn't any history as far as I know. Now, they could have built over a graveyard or something, which Indianapolis loves to do. But yeah, so also note that. I feel like that's important to know as I tell you the rest of the story. So this started happening around the time my cousin Bird passed away. He was a great dude. I looked up to him, and I, for some reason, thought this was all related at the time. But when he passed away, right, I was incredibly saddened. He was only like 22, 23 years old. He was young, and it was beyond devastating. One day I come home, and his mom, my cousin Rita's on the porch, and she's devastated, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what's going on. My mom's trying to console her, and then they tell me what's going on. And shortly after that, right, our whole house is dealing with grief. Shortly after that, I started to notice in my shower, right? So I'll be taking a shower, and all of a sudden in the mirror, you know how you fall, you take a hot shower, and I've notoriously taken scalding hot showers. Mirror always fogs up. There was a little drawing in the mirror, and the drawing just looked like a little, like somebody just drew like an eye, like, just literally like this in the mirror. And it wasn't this amazingly designed eye, but it was more like a tribal looking eye. And so I saw that, and I wasn't initially worried about it, although I guess I should have been. But I wasn't initially worried about it because I'm thinking, hey, this is probably my cousin, right? And if anybody knows anything about ghost stories, oftentimes something dark or demonic will try to use your friends and family members as a way to get to you. I didn't know that at this time. So I saw that and didn't think nothing of it. And it started happening regularly, and I would kind of smile at it and almost welcome it because I'm thinking it's my cousin saying, hey, like, I'm checking you out. I see you, So that's what I'm thinking is going on. So fast forward, something strange happens, even more strange. And this was where it started to go from, okay, this is kind of cool and kind of nice. And, this is probably my cousin to, okay, this is something else. So this is when my mother was going out of town. I don't know if it was a girl's trip or what, but she was going somewhere. And my cousin Desmond was staying with us. And my dad was going, watch us for the weekend. And, my mom was going out of town with her friends or something. My dad always, get us some video games, pizzas or something. My mom would do that or whatever. So everything is set and we're good. Right? So we were set for the weekend. Everything was going to be good. And to start the weekend off, we had to take my mom to the airport. Well, my cousin Desmond is notorious for sleeping late. I was like my son Zane, right, where he can pop up in the morning and be ready to go on 10,000. So 6 in the morning, I will be up. Desmond, if you left him, he could sleep to like 6 in the evening. And I'm not exaggerating. That dude slept. So what we did was, well, she was going to the airport super early. This is the days where you had to get to the airport like hours early. And so we figured there's no need in waking him up. He's not going to wake up anyway. And so me and him were camped out in the basement. I wanted to see my mom off, to the airport because, I'm terrified of her getting on a plane and not coming back. So I go with my dad to the airport. We come back, and I go back in the basement, and this basement was notoriously dark. I mean, there was no windows at all. So once you close that door, and then it was positioned, the entry to it was positioned to a place where there wasn't like direct sunlight that ever hit the door. So you were in the dark, just that's it, pitch black darkness. And so I go down there, and sorry, that's my like camera going on, seeing the baby are coming in the house. So that's my front door camera making that noise. But I go down there, and we return, and I go down there, and I'm just gonna go ahead and lay it back down because it's super early. It's still like 6 or 7 in the morning, so I figured go back to sleep. Then we wake up and get back at it. Right? Video games is the days you rented video games from Hollywood Video or Blockbuster, and I lay down, and all of a sudden I notice in this pitch darkness, I can see my breath. That's horrifying. I noticed I can see my breath. And so I'm thinking that's weird. And all of a sudden, I feel the coldest of cold air just rush through my body. And obviously, I was horrified. So I don't move. I'm just laying there like, what the fuck just happened? And so I just stay put. I don't move, and I'm just like, I'm going to close my eyes and, pray to God that, like, something's not trying to get us. And I just closed my eyes out of fear and just stayed there and didn't move and ended up falling back asleep somehow. Okay, so fast forward, right? Then one night, and I didn't say anything. For some reason, I didn't say anything to my parents about this. Also, I didn't talk to Desmond about this. So I just, I'd already thought this place was kind of weird, but didn't think nothing too much of it. Basically, I was being one of the dumbass people in the ghost shows that are like, they walk in and like the chairs are just like, woo, they're just spinning. And they're like, maybe it's the wind. Like, I was being one of those people. It's just like, dude, there's something going on here. And, but one night, me, my mother and father, it was probably like 8 or 9. Everybody's about to lay down and go to bed. And this is when I used to love to drink milk. And was standing there drinking some milk. My parents were like, all right, I'm headed upstairs. We're headed upstairs. Have a good night. Good night. Love you guys. They go upstairs, and I'm sitting there just enjoying this glass of milk. Chubby fat kid would. And all of a sudden, I hear, I'm here. Drop the glass and run. I heard it loud as day, a whisper in my ear, I'm here. So then that happens. And I'm telling you all these things because this is leading up to, there's multiple experiences. So this is just, you can see there was a history of things happening, and they were subtle but noticeable. And then finally you realize it when there's a big kabam, right? So kind of one of the big kabams was one day in the same house. I was doing what I normally did on a Saturday, was sitting there watching cartoons, watching Nickelodeon on Saturdays, which is fire. If you're a 90s baby, Nickelodeon was the shit on Saturdays all day long, especially in the evening. But mornings was lit too. And so, or I might have been watching ABC. ABC was lit on Saturday mornings too. Nevertheless, I'm watching something in the living room. Knew I had to clean up the house before my parents got home, but I was like, I'm going to chill out for now, eat some cereal, watch some shows on the couch. And so I'm laying on the couch, enjoying some shows. I remember the sun coming through, one of the windows, and it was a nice, pretty, like, quiet day. And I dozed off, and then woke up looking down on myself. I was having an out-of-body experience, and I didn't know what it was. I thought I died. And so I'm literally floating over myself, right? I'm laying on this couch and I'm looking, and it feels like there's somebody else in the room, but you can't see anybody else. And so I'm floating over myself thinking, fuck, dude, I died. Like, what the fuck? Like, damn, dude, like that's how I'm going out. Like, I'm one of those people that just like out of nowhere, like 10, 11 years old, just out of here. No reason. And, don't have any major health issues at that time. Don't have any major health issues or anything like that. So I'm thinking, like, fuck, this is how I'm going to go. And then I'm thinking, like, no, I want to get back in my body. So I'm like trying to move. I can't move. Body's totally paralyzed. Trying to get back in my body. And eventually I'm able to like will myself back in. And I start saying prayers and everything. I'm like, God, I am not ready to go. Please help. Put me back in my body. Please, let's go. And was able to like will myself back into my body. And, obviously I was beyond spooked. I don't even remember what I did after that. I don't know if I called my mother. I don't know. I might have just like went outside to just like, I want to, distract myself from that, because that was absolutely horrifying. And if you have had an out-of-body experience before, it is terrifying, especially when, well, it's always, I guess, unexpected. I think people can do it manually, but for the most part, it's usually unexpected. And yeah, so I was terrified. I don't know if I told my parents about it or not. But then here's where things started to get, this is where it took a turn for the worse. So I was often at home alone. Both my parents work, hairstylist and barber, so they don't go to work. They don't get paid, so they're not, getting PTO and stuff like that. They got to go to work. Shout out to all the hairstylists and barbers around the world. Y'all know what that's about. And so I was home alone one day. May have been a Saturday. I think it was, because I was like there all day. And I'm sitting there, upstairs chilling, and I hear what sounds like somebody walking around downstairs. And I'm thinking, I'm looking out the window. I'm like, I don't see my parents' cars. My room was right above the garage, so when anybody pulled into the garage, if your room's above the garage, it's like, it'll wake you all the way up. It's like, fuck. But yeah, there was none of that. So I'm looking around out the window. I'm like, don't see my parents, and I hear somebody walking around downstairs, and then I hear what sounds like a guy and a woman having a full-blown conversation. And they're talking, they're laughing. She's just, and it's not like a creepy laugh. It just literally sounds like there are people downstairs, who walked into their house and they're just having a conversation. And I am obviously mortified, because I'm thinking, okay, somebody has broken in here. I've always been a kid who's been like super hyper vigilant when it comes towards that kind of stuff. I'm even like that now. So stay away from our house, because you'll get fucking shot. But I've always been hyper vigilant when it comes to that. And so I am freaking out. So I call, like, I do what you're supposed to do, hide in a closet, and which that has never made sense to me. They tell you to hide in a closet, right? The national message is, someone breaks in, hide in a closet. But if someone breaks in and they know that the national message is to hide in the closet, wouldn't the closet be the first fucking place they would check? I don't know. Okay. But I hid in the closet, and I called my dad and was like, hey, or my mom or somebody, hey, there's somebody in the house, and like, I need help. I don't know why I didn't think to call 911, but it was like, I need help. Right. And so they were like, okay, we're going to call Mr. Shelton, have him come over there. So Mr. Shelton, my friend's dad, my friend Aaron, his dad, and he was like the scary dad, like the big guy with the muscles, and just, you didn't want to whoop him from this guy. So I definitely felt safer that he was coming over, and he came over locked and loaded, like ready to, shoot something if something was in the house. So I remember throwing him the key out the window, and he comes and he checks the entire house, and it's nothing. And I promise on I swear on everything I love, on my kids, like, I heard these people having a full-blown conversation, right? And it's not like it's a regular thing where I'm walking around and hearing people that ain't there. Like, I'm not dealing with schizophrenia. I'm not, the ghost whisperer, where this is just happening all the time. I heard a full blown conversation going on, and they were carrying on as if they didn't know I was there. And so that was the last thing that happened when right before we moved. And I remember, my parents talking to me about moving because that would mean, here it is. I was on track to go to one high school, but if we moved, that means I was going to another high school. And I was so terrified of living in that house, I didn't care where I was going. I just wanted to get out of that house. And so it could have been Hogwarts or it could have been Cooley High. I don't give a damn. I'm ready to go. And so that's how I ended up going, to a different school because we moved. And I was in full support of it and happily, yep, let's go. I don't care. Like, they're like, you're not going to miss your friends or anything? Yeah, I'll miss them, but let's go. And I said the house was haunted, but, it's just like the movies, right? The kids are like, yeah, like there's a fucking demon in the house. And the parents are like, you're just imagining things. You're just having bad dreams. It'll be all right. You're a big boy. It's like, no, dude, I'm not imagining shit. Like, this is happening for real. All right. So I remember having conversations with them. I never talked to anybody else about it. Right. So fast forward. This is now years ago. Right. Well, no, this is now years in advance. When I say years, okay, I was in that house. When we were in the house, I was 11 years old. Right. I'm talking about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Like, I think Zane, my son, was just born. One of my sons was just born. And I'm on the phone with my grandmother. And my grandmother just randomly, we're talking about something like scary that happened or something. And she was like, your mother told me that house that y'all lived in was haunted on Wish Avenue. And I go, what? She goes, yeah, my mother told you. So I'm now shitty at this point because I told them this house was haunted, and they looked at me like I was smoking crack at 11 years old, right? So now I'm furious because I'm like, okay, so you fucking gaslighted me this entire time. That's what that was. You gaslighted me. And so I called my mother, and I'm like, so you knew the entire time? And she's like, what are you talking about? The house on Wish Avenue. You knew the entire time? She's like, what are you talking about? That it was haunted. And she goes, what are you talking about? I goes, Lou told me, and that's what I call my grandmother. Lou told me that you told her that you knew that house was haunted. And my mother's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, are you trying to mess with me? Like, it's a joke. I'm not going to say it to my mom, but I'm thinking, man, are you fucking with me right now? Like, what are you talking about? And dead serious. Nothing. So then I go back to my grandmother, and I'm like, so my mother, you said my mother told you that? Yeah, we were talking on the phone. She told me. Who, excuse me, I don't know if you heard that little internal burp that came out. Who told my grandmother? I didn't talk to anybody about this but my parents, who didn't listen, really, so I stopped talking to them about it. Who told my grandmother? Was it the house? Was it a spirit from the house? Because my grandmother is, kind of spiritually inclined on that. She's seen stuff too. I think some of the stuff I have seen comes from her side. But the question is, who told my grandmother? To this day, I've never gotten to the bottom of it. And to this day, I know where the house is. I have friends that still live in the neighborhood. Shout out to Ashton and the Green family. Well, her parents still live there. So the Green family. But seriously, who told my grandmother? So that's one of my ghost stories right there. So yeah, I've got quite a few. That one is one of the decent ones. I'm saving the one from Chicago that was a lot worse. I experienced a poltergeist situation, and actually one of my friend's mothers helped me get rid of it. So yeah, I'll share that at another time. But I am interested in hearing your ghost stories. So with that, if you have ghost stories, please inbox them to me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, with the name My Ghost Story. You share your ghost story with me. I'll read it and I'll discuss it. And yeah, I think it'll be good. It'll be interesting for me because I love ghost stories. Um, and I think I love them now because I learned how to deal with them. I learned how to get rid of stuff. Right? It's scary when you don't know how to get rid of it. But my situation in Chicago, I learned how to get rid of it. And then ever since, I've felt pretty good about handling situations when I've needed to. So on that note, don't want to keep this longer than it already is. Thanks for tuning in. Be on the lookout for more videos. I didn't tell you my name before because you should know who the hell I am because it's written on the top of my profile. But I'm BL Lewis. Peace.